A strange man uses a pair of tweezers to make drawings all over the walls of a room. He works for so many hours without rest that he becomes extremely tired and eventually collapses on the floor. Later, a general and a military scientist enter the room to check on him, but they discover that he has died because he pushed himself too hard. Before dying, he had drawn a picture of the main squares in important Italian cities. In one of those squares, a boy named Michel rides his bicycle to school. On the way, he stops at a store to look at a Spider-Man costume because he hopes to buy it after school and wear it to a costume party that evening to impress others. When he arrives at school, he notices a new girl in his class named Stella and secretly has a crush on her, but he feels too shy to talk to her, so he secretly records videos of her on his phone. Just as he is about to record again, the teacher catches him using his phone during class and takes it away. Soon, the school principal comes in with Giovanna, the police inspector, and Michelle's mother and tells the class that a boy named Martino is missing and asks if anyone knows where he is. Then the inspector goes to Michel and gives him the snack he forgot at home, and this makes him so shy and nervous that his nose starts to bleed and he asks to go to the bathroom. There, Brando and Ivan from his class attack him with a paintball gun and tell him to give them his money. Michel tries to fight back, but they take his money, and Ivan gives him 10 seconds to run away. Michel runs through the school but is shot in the back and falls before he can escape. The boys step on his hand in front of other students, and everyone laughs at him. Later, he goes home feeling ashamed and with no money to buy the Spider-Man costume. In his room, he meets his younger sister Candela, who also loves superheroes, but he ignores her and checks the safe for any money left. With the little money he has, he goes into town to look for another costume. He enters a Chinese shop that sells decorations and meets a boy his own age and asks for cheaper superhero costumes. The boy shows him a Xian costume, a very famous hero in his country, but the costume looks more like sleep clothes with an old cape. With little choice, Michel agrees and asks what powers this hero has, but the boy only says he must find out by himself. Later, Giovanna finishes work and goes home, where she sees her son wearing his new costume, but Michel is not sure if he wants to go to the party. Giovanna tells him to go and face his fears like his father did, who was a famous policeman in the city, so Michel listens to her and goes to the party, trying to stay away from Brando and Ivan. To his surprise, he meets Stella dressed as Marie Antoinette, and she says his hero costume looks nice, so they start talking. Brando becomes jealous and wants to hurt Michel again, so he calls the whole class into the hall and says he took Michel's phone from the principal's office, and then he shows Stella the videos on the phone, which makes her ask Michel if it is true. Michel says nothing and tries to run away, but Brando and the others block the doors and force him to hide in the bathroom. With nowhere to go, Michel gets angry at his useless costume and asks what Xian's powers are. At that moment, lightning hits near the building and the city loses power. When the lights come back, Michel jumps out of the bathroom window and runs home after being embarrassed in front of everyone again. The next morning, Michel wakes up and sees his small dog Mario looking at him in a strange way, but he ignores it because he is late for school. When he goes to brush his teeth, he is shocked to see that his body is invisible, and when Giovanna comes into his room she cannot see him, which confuses him even more. He writes a note on the bed to tell his mother he left early, and she goes to work while Michel stays in his room not knowing how to become normal again. He hides his invisible body with gloves, a cap, and dark glasses, and at school he sees that showing himself is risky, but he tests his power by taking off his clothes and walking to class without being seen. Now sure he is invisible, he uses the power by taking Ivan's paintball gun and shooting the board, which scares the teacher and makes her send Ivan out. Then we see Brando playing in the school tennis final on the court. Since Michel is invisible, he secretly causes Brando to miss every shot, and Brando ends up losing the game in a very embarrassing way. Michel is still not satisfied, so he follows Brando into the locker room, throws tennis balls all over the floor, and talks in a creepy voice. Brando thinks there is a ghost in the room and runs away in fear while Michel laughs at him. After that, Michel decides to do one more thing and sneaks into the girls' changing room. Inside, he sees all the girls from his class and quietly sits among them, hoping no one will notice him. Unfortunately, Stella accidentally throws her towel right where he is sitting, and when it lands, it forms the shape of a person. Stella reaches out to grab her towel, but at that exact moment, Michel suddenly becomes visible again. When the girls see him there, the whole class screams in fear and Michel is almost kicked out of school. The next morning things are even worse because the girls look at him with hate, and this makes Michel feel very uneasy, and his fear seems to turn his invisibility on again. Afraid someone will find out his secret, Michelle runs out of the classroom and goes home, where he meets Candela, who is shocked to see her brother's invisible face. After she calms down, Michelle tells her everything and says he still cannot control his power, and Candela feels excited to have a brother with powers, but Michelle tells her she must keep it a secret. Later, Michelle tries to think of a way to control his power when he hears Giovanna coming home, so he quickly takes off his clothes to become invisible, and when Giovanna sees the empty room she thinks Michelle is not home yet, and she calls a friend and says she is worried because Michelle has been acting strange, and during the call she says she is scared that Michelle has found out the truth that he was adopted as a baby. Hearing this, Michelle runs away to the harbor and sits on a swing in shock after learning the truth. Soon after, Stella comes there to practice dancing and sees the swing moving by itself, and she is not scared and asks if someone is there, and Michelle does not show himself but draws a face and a smile in the sand. Stella feels happy to meet someone invisible and asks who can swing the fastest, and Michelle agrees and they have fun together until Stella says she must leave for ballet practice. Stella hopes to see her invisible friend again, and this makes Michelle feel very happy, but when he looks toward the harbor he notices a man wearing sunglasses staring in his direction as if he can see him even though Michelle is invisible, and Michelle thinks he is only imagining it, and later that night he goes to visit Stella. When he reaches her house, he draws the same smiling face on her bedroom window, and Stella lets him come inside because she is happy to see her invisible friend again, and she covers him with a sheet and asks his name, but Michelle says he cannot tell her who he is yet. Stella moves closer to check if he is real, and being so close to her makes Michelle nervous, so his body becomes visible again, and he runs away and goes home to tell Candela everything that happened. Candela tells him he must tell Stella the truth, so the next night Michelle finds his courage and goes to meet Stella with Mario, and they go to the school gym where Stella is practicing for her gymnastics show. Before Michelle arrives, a strange man comes in and shoots Stella with a sleeping dart, and she falls unconscious, and the man takes her to his van. As the man leaves the school, Michelle and Mario see Stella being taken and run to stop him, and even though Michelle is just a boy he grabs the man's arm and tells him to let Stella go, but the man pushes him down, and Mario bites the man's arm to help, but the man shakes them off, puts Stella in the van, and drives away. Soon the police hear about what happened at the school, and Giovanna rushes there to check on Michelle, and luckily Michelle and Mario are not hurt, but Michelle tells his mother that Stella was taken. The police begin to search, but Michelle wants to find Stella himself and starts training alone to control his powers, and when he goes to get his costume he finds that his mother washed it, and when he puts it on he cannot become invisible. Angry, Michelle shouts at his mother and says washing the costume took away his powers, and Giovanna does not understand what he means, and Michelle becomes even more upset and says he hates her and that she is not his real mother. After that he runs out of the house. At the same moment, the glass in the bookcase breaks as if his anger caused it. As Michelle walks back to the harbor, the same man with sunglasses comes to him and says that his name is Andre and that he is Michelle's real father, and he also says he is a special, which means a person who has powers that can change the world. Michelle does not believe him at first, but Andre explains that long ago there was a nuclear war in Russia, and while most people died, some survived, and the radiation gave them special powers. Because of this, the Russian government made a secret military lab called the Division, led by an old general from the Cold War, to study and test these people with powers. Andre says that his own power is to read minds and erase memories, but using his power for too long made him lose his sight in both eyes. While he was kept in the lab, Andre met a woman named Yelena and fell in love with her, and even though specials were not meant to have children, Yelena gave birth to Michelle. Knowing the army would use their baby for experiments, Andre and Yelena ran away from the lab one morning, but soldiers followed them soon after, and Yelena chose to stay behind to protect Andre and the baby while they escaped. Like Michelle, Yelena could turn invisible, and wearing a special suit she attacked the soldiers, but a sniper saw a butterfly land on her invisible body and shot her, and Yelena was killed that day. After this, Andre traveled across Europe to find a safe home for his son, and by using his mind powers he found Giovanna, who wished to be a mother, and left Michelle at her house. The Division is still looking for Michelle because they believe he can help them make an army of powerful people. After telling Michelle everything, Andre must leave so he is not found, but before he goes he gives Michelle a special suit with a Russian S symbol made from the same fabric as Yelena's suit. Andre leaves just before Giovanna arrives at the harbor with Dr. Basilai, her co-worker and a forensic psychologist, and she says she was very worried and will talk to Michelle at home. After picking up Mario from the vet, Basilai drives Michelle home, and Michelle runs to his room to try on the special suit. A short time later, Basilai calls him to the table for tea while they wait for Giovanna, and when Michelle comes into the living room wearing the suit, the doctor notices blood marks on his shirt. Feeling afraid and suspicious, Michelle says he needs to go to the bathroom and tries to escape, but Basilai tells him that all the doors are locked, and with nowhere else to go, Michelle puts on his mask, takes off the rest of his clothes, and moves his hands to turn invisible. Basilai chases him into the kitchen, where Michelle throws knives at him, but the man blocks them with a chair. Michelle runs toward the living room, and Basilai grabs a bag of flour and throws it all over the floor so he can see Michelle's footprints going back to his room. Because of this, Basilai catches up to Michelle just before he jumps out of the window and throws him against the closet. Basilai then shows that he works for the division and wants to take Michelle to the lab to test him and turn him into a strong soldier. Michelle refuses to go with him, kicks Basilai, and jumps out of the window to escape. When he reaches the street, Michelle turns invisible again and runs through the city until he finds Ivan sitting on his motorcycle, and with no time to explain, he tells Ivan to ride fast, and Ivan, thinking it is a ghost, does what he is told. Far away at the division lab, Stella is locked in a room where she meets Martino and Brando, who were also captured, and they tell her how they ended up there, and Stella says they must escape quickly. She looks around and sees a hole in the ceiling, and the three of them stand on each other to reach it and climb out. At the same time, Ivan rides to an old warehouse where Michelle shows himself and tells Ivan everything that happened, and when Ivan learns Michelle has powers, he starts to respect him and says that Stella and Martino are missing and that Brando is also gone. They plan to save them, but Michelle does not know where they were taken. Meanwhile, Stella gets out of the room and finds herself on a large ship with many armed guards, and she tries not to be seen, using her gym skills to move along narrow metal paths. Stella then finds an emergency signal light, and thinking about her invisible friend, she turns it on to ask for help, and she draws the same smiling face on the lamp just before a guard takes her away. Far away, Michelle sees the light in the sky and knows Stella is there because of the drawing, and he goes with Ivan to save her, and soon they reach the ship, but the entrance is guarded by many armed men. Ivan tells Michelle to turn invisible, and as soon as Michelle uses his power, Ivan pulls out his paintball gun and shoots the power box, which makes the security system break down, and this lets Michelle enter the base without being seen. Inside the base, Michelle finds the room where Stella is kept, and while still invisible, he grabs a fire extinguisher, hits one guard on the head, and takes the guard's gun. Soon another guard comes, but Michelle points the gun at him and forces him to open the cell door, and in this way he frees Stella, Martino, and Brando, locks the guards inside, and then shows who he really is. Everyone is shocked, especially Stella, to learn that Michelle is a superhero, but Michelle says there is no time and tells them to run from the ship, and Stella then tells him that there is one more prisoner in another cell. Michelle goes with Stella to save that person, and at the same time Giovanna comes home with Mario and sees the house is a mess, and just then Andre appears outside and warns her that Michelle is in danger and they must help him. So they drive away to look for him and meet Ivan, who is running from the soldiers. Andre reads Ivan's mind and learns that he knows where Michelle is, so he tells Ivan to help them search. Meanwhile, Michelle follows Stella to the other cell, but they end up inside a submarine instead, and then the lights turn on and they see they are surrounded, and suddenly Stella points a gun at Michelle. Michelle is confused, and then the division general appears and says he has been waiting for him, and he explains that he is also a special who can control people's minds and that he has used this power to control Dr. Basilai and Stella. The general also says he works for the true leader of the division, who is Yelena, Michelle's mother, and she is still alive and has been looking for her son for many years, and if Michelle agrees to go to the division base, they will let Stella go home safely. Outside the ship, Giovanna breaks in to find Michelle, and when she meets Basilai, who does not know what is happening, she asks where Michelle is, but Andre tells them all to leave because Michelle is not on the ship and the self-destruct system has started. With only seconds left, Andre, Giovanna, and Basilai find Martino and Brando and escape the ship before it explodes. Back in the submarine, the soldiers put Stella into an emergency capsule to send her back to the port, and the general says that Michelle will soon join his mother and the other specials who he says are better than normal people. Michelle does not want to leave his friends behind, and in his anger he suddenly gains a new power, and with his mind he can move and control things, so he starts breaking the submarine from the inside. Michelle then runs to the emergency capsule, and together with Stella they turn it on and are sent back up to the surface. At the port, they meet their friends again, and a few minutes later the police arrive to see what happened. In front of everyone, Michelle shows that he can turn invisible, and Martino says that Michelle is the city's new superhero and calls him the Invisible Boy, and Michelle feels happy because people finally respect him. Nearby, Andre asks Michelle to talk alone and tells him that he must erase everyone's memories about what happened, and Michelle does not want this, but Andre warns him that if people know who he is, the division will hunt him. With no other choice, Michelle goes to Stella and tells her goodbye, saying he will see her again soon, and Stella is confused, But they kiss goodbye, and then Andre uses his power so everyone forgets that Michelle is the invisible boy. The next day there is a press meeting, and without knowing about the hero who saved the children, the police thank Inspector Giovanna for everything. Even though Michelle knows the truth, he is happy that his mother is now seen as the town's protector, and they make peace with each other. Later that day, Michelle goes to the school gym where they are having a party to celebrate the return of the students, and Stella is also there, but she does not remember the hero who saved her. As Stella is leaving, Michelle finds the courage to go and talk to her, but Ivan and Brando, who also forgot everything, stop him, and even so Michelle runs past them to reach Stella. Outside the school, Michelle asks Stella to walk home with him, and even though she does not remember what happened, she feels happy about it and agrees. Life in the city goes back to normal. Far away at the division's secret base, a soldier reports that Michelle escaped from the submarine and also says that Michelle's twin sister was found in Morocco and a mission has begun to bring her back. Yelena, the leader of the division, is pleased, and when she remembers the past it is shown that she had twins and that Andre separated them to protect them from the powerful group.